I was reading an article very recently about a Christian counselor. And this counselor shared about her experience walking alongside another Christian woman who was going through a season of deep despair, deep discouragement, and deep depression. This woman felt like God was being silent to her. And so, as this woman sat across the room from this counselor, she gave an analogy that explained how she was feeling for the past couple of months that I resonated with very deeply. And this is what she said. She told her counselor, "I feel like I'm falling off my bike, and God is my father who is just standing there, watching me get hurt over and over again, but refusing to come and pick me up." If you have been a Christian for any length of time, you resonate with those words. And it's because when you became a Christian, you realized something very quickly, and it's that suffering and the pain in your life does not disappear. Actually, in some cases, it doesn't just remain, but that suffering continues and even gets worse. And to give you an example, maybe you're here tonight and you have been feeling anxiety and tiredness every single day for as long as you can remember, and it's not going away no matter how much sleep you get and no matter how many vacations you take. It's because this is not a physical condition, it's a spiritual one. And you are sitting here thinking, "Lord, how long?" Or to give you another example, there is a broken relationship in your life. You have prayed since day one for God to pick up the broken pieces, put it all together, but today that relationship is as broken as it began, and you're asking the question, "Lord, why?" You have a diagnosis, and that diagnosis is not going away anytime soon, and you're also left wondering, "Oh Lord, where are you?" And you might be even here tonight, and you're sitting here thinking, "I have not felt genuine joy or hope or peace worshiping you for the longest time. I'm here, but I don't really expect things to change tonight." Maybe that's you. Suffering and discouragement, it makes us feel like God is being silent. And I also want to say this. If you're here, you're not a Christian, and you are exploring Christianity maybe, I want to let you know that you are feeling this even more strongly than any Christian in this room. And the reason why is because you experience the same anxiety, the same heartbreak, the same broken relationships. You receive the same diagnoses from the same doctors, and yet this is not a season that you're walking through. This is your life. This is what you know. And you have this feeling in your heart that you need help, but you know that help will not come from anyone. And I just want to let you know that is not an imaginary feeling. That is a true feeling. And you shouldn't ignore it. It's real. So whether you're a Christian or whether you're not tonight, what's going to help you as you and I are walking through seasons of discouragement, seasons where we feel like God is being silent? The answer to that question is in our passage. And it's in the silence that Jesus experienced on the cross today, 2,000 years ago. Because on the cross, Jesus experienced a genuine and real and crushing silence from God his Father so that you and I, both Christians or not Christian, would never experience silence from him ever again. And so I just want to walk with you through this brief passage of 5 verses, and I just want to explain to you what I mean. And so let's go to verse 45. In this verse, the gospel writer Matthew, he records for us what Jesus experienced in the very last few hours of his life. And in verse 45, he records the first thing Jesus experienced, and it's darkness. Sometimes when you and I go through really hard times, we describe those times as the dark nights of our soul. And this was certainly the case for Jesus. But the darkness that Matthew is about to tell us that Jesus experienced, it's not figurative, it's actually literal. As Jesus hung upon the cross, Matthew writes in verse 45, "From the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour." And so what Matthew is telling us is that There was a literal darkness that covered the land as Jesus was hanging on the cross from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., which is the time of the day where the sun should be at its peak. A solar eclipse cannot explain this phenomenon, and the reason why is because when Jesus was on the cross was during the time of the Passover this week, which is why some of you might have actually seen the full moon last night or the night before. So it's not an eclipse. This was a literal darkness. No light was shining down from the sun over Jesus or the surrounding area or over all of Jerusalem. But why did Jesus experience darkness? Matthew explains why. He experienced darkness because what he was seeing on the cross was a visible sign of God's wrath and displeasure aimed through a scope right at him. Did you hear the words that Matthew used to describe this event? He wrote, "There was darkness over all the lands." This is the exact same way that the Bible uses to describe the darkness that God punished Egypt with. If you go all the way back to the Old Testament in Exodus, Matthew copies the exact same wording as Exodus does to explain to you and to me why Jesus experienced darkness on the cross. And it was a pronouncement God was making on Jesus, saying, "I am displeased with you, and my wrath is being poured on you." No light, no voice, no encouragement. It was just darkness and it was silence. Now, for you and for me, maybe silence from a parental figure, maybe that's not a big deal. And the reason why is because you grew up for most of your life living in a household or living with parents who never spoke to you. And silence was not a big deal. It's just the way of life. It's just what you were used to. But for Jesus, silence was different. Because one of the things that you and I do every Sunday is at the end of every service, we have a benediction. And the benediction is when the pastor comes up and he pronounces a blessing on the whole church from God. And one of the things that's often said in those benedictions is this: "May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you." God in the Word, he often shows his blessing and favor on someone with his light. God's presence often manifests itself in light being shown on you or on the people in the Bible. It's his way of saying, "I love you and I'm pleased with you." Darkness is the complete reversal of that. Darkness is God's way of saying he is not pleased with you because of your sin, and his presence is no longer with you. If you think about this, this is very different from what Jesus experienced not too long ago at his baptism. Because you remember at Jesus' baptism, he's standing in the river, the heavens part, the clouds separate, and the Holy Spirit descends from the clouds like a dove, and it rests on him. And Jesus hears the voice of his Father from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son with whom I'm well pleased." Fast forward till now, it's the complete reversal. Jesus is on the cross. He's alone. There's no parting of the clouds. There's no light shining. There's no voice being spoken saying, "You're still my beloved Son." Instead, what Jesus gets is complete darkness. He hears no voice, and he experiences radio silence. This is why Jesus cries out in verse 48, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani." And Matthew, he translates that for us, and it means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And the thing that Jesus is most in anguish about, the thing that he's most upset about on the cross, it's not the physical pain that he's experiencing. It's this. It's that God has turned off all the lights and he has turned off the radio. Jesus is in anguish because his Father has forsaken him. And being forsaken, it simply means this. It means you've been deserted, you've been abandoned, you've been left behind. And I think all of us in this room know what that feels like. You and I have been forsaken by people in our life, and it hurts. It's one of the most painful experiences you can go through as a human being. And especially if it comes from a person who has committed his or her love to you, or his or her friendship to you, or I'm not going to leave you. I'm always going to be there for you. You can always count on me. I'm going to show up every moment of your life when you need a friend. When it comes from them, it hurts. But to be honest, even though it might feel like a punch in the gut, we understand that everyone in the world is a sinner, and even the people closest to us fail us. But with God, it's different. God does not forsake anyone. He doesn't forsake his people. Even the Old Testament writers, they all talk about how God never leaves you. He never abandons you. He never forsakes you, which is why if you go to Psalm 37, David writes about this. He says, I've been young, now I'm old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken or his children begging for bread. David says, ever since I became a Christian until the day I'm old with gray hairs, I have never seen God forsake any of us. Yet, Jesus is being forsaken here. Why? Is it because God changed? No. Here's why. It's because you and I and everyone in this world, we owed a debt to God because of our sin. Jesus took that debt upon himself, every penny of it, and he paid it on the cross. I say this whole thing about the debt, Jesus paid it for us. I say this because when God entered into a relationship with his people Israel in the Old Testament, that relationship came with amazing blessings, but it also came with curses. If they broke that relationship, one of those curses is actually being forsaken, which is why in Deuteronomy 31, God says to Israel, if you continue to leave me and forsake me and ignore me and go after other gods, he says, my anger will be kindled against you in that day, and I will forsake you and hide my face from you, and they will be devoured. This is what Jesus is experiencing on the cross. And it's not just Israel's sin that he's doing it for, but for your sin and my sin as well. And instead of you and me being cut off from God, Jesus chose to step in our place, and he was cut off, and he was abandoned, so that you and I would not be cut off or abandoned. This is why Jesus cried out on the cross, quoting Psalm 22, my God, why are you forsaking me? This psalm, if you go all the way back there and you read about it, it's about a man who experiences deep discouragement, deep depression, and he's actually crying out to God, God, why are you not helping me? And if you get to all the way to the end, he still trusts God, and he hopes in God, and he knows God's going to help him. But when you go to Jesus on the cross, he quotes this psalm, the very first verse of it, and then he stops there because he knows no help is ever going to come for him. He knows he's on the cross, he's here to pay for the sins of the world, and he's not going to be let off. Matthew continues the passage telling us that the soldiers who were waiting under Jesus' cross, they hear Jesus saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. They mishear him and they think that he's crying out to Elijah. They think that he's saying, Elijah, Elijah, please come down from heaven and save me. Which is why they take a sponge, they soak it in sour wine, stick it on a reed, and they put it up to Jesus' mouth to prolong his death, to delay it, so that he stays up there longer. There are onlookers who are watching everything that's happening, and they're mocking him. They actually tell the soldiers, stop, don't do that. Let's see whether Elijah comes down and saves him. And a few moments later, Jesus cries out for a second time. He yields up his spirit, and he dies. And you need to know this as well. The gospel, Matthew, he doesn't just tell us that Jesus was going and drifting in and out of a state of consciousness and unconsciousness. He was woozy, he was delirious. It doesn't say that. Matthew makes it a point for us to know this. Jesus yelling out decisively in a strong cry and purposely yielding up his spirit in the moment of his death means this. Jesus had full control of his consciousness and his senses. And up until the very moment that he died, he consciously and decisively died. and yielded up his life. Up until the very moment that he died, he was thinking about you. What does this all mean for you and for me? Here's what it means. The gospel writer Matthew has been inserting Old Testament references in these short 5 verses, taking us all the way back to the Psalms, taking us all the way back to Exodus. And the reason why is because he is reminding you and me that the reason why Jesus is on the cross, the reason why he suffered on the cross, was because of our sins. And the point of Good Friday, the point of why we're here, is not so that we would pity Jesus. And it's not so that we would feel sorry for what he went through. Jesus does not want our pity. He doesn't want us to feel sorry for him, because what he wants is for us to know that you can trust him. You can trust that he died on the cross for your sins. You can trust that he died on the cross so that you would be able to live tomorrow and get through another day. Jesus' death on the cross does not demand our pity, it demands our trust in him. All he wants from you tonight is for you not to shed tears for the pain he went through. He actually just wants your heart. And so I just want to encourage you. When you wake up tomorrow, your relationships will still be broken. And when you wake up tomorrow, your family life will still be really hard. And when you wake up tomorrow, your body will still be broken. Your heart will still be broken. Yet, you can wake up and get through it with hope and with joy. And you could even pour joy into other people's hearts. Do you know why? It's because of what Jesus went through on the cross. He experienced silence from God so that you can live through your suffering and through your discouragements and through your sicknesses and through the sicknesses your loved ones are going through with hope and joy. Because you know God is not going to be silent to you. And even if you're sitting here and it feels like it's like that, you might be sitting here again, you might feel like God is quiet. He's not really pouring into you. He's not making you feel the things that you used to feel. You can know because of Good Friday and because of what Jesus suffered on the cross, he's not silent. It feels like that, but he's not. He is good. He is with you right now. And if you're not a Christian, God is simply asking you tonight, will you trust me? As you go through the same things that Christians go through, he's asking, will you lay down your sword? Will you unclench your fist? Will you lay down your shield? And will you trust that I love you? My son died for you, and I want to be with you. So all of this is possible, Christian and non-Christian, because of Good Friday, because of what Jesus went through. And so I encourage you tonight to continue worshiping, not pitying Jesus, not feeling sorry for the nails, but actually to trust him right now as we continue praying, as we continue singing. I can do this because, Jesus, of what you went through. I have hope because you've given that to me, Jesus.